All right, over to Switzerland we go for an update on the whole issue around rich minerals and, of course, the outcome of the German election. Joining us from Switzerland is Night Talk contributor Christian Falk. Christian, welcome back to the program.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Already there's more changes coming about as far as all of the discussion around rich minerals. First of all, Christian, really what are we talking about when we use the phrase rich minerals?
Well, rich minerals, we're specifically talking about strategic minerals, which are basically having a huge impact on the automotive industry, on the IT, like all daily devices like mobile phones, cars, etc., etc. We talk about rare earth metals, which Trump is partially talking about when we have a look now at the Ukraine, but also like industrial metals like copper, zinc, etc., etc. Those are the minerals we're talking about.
Okay, so we already have word that U.S. President Trump and Ukraine President Zelensky have reached some kind of a deal on Ukraine providing rich minerals to the U.S. What kind of an impact would that have on the market for rich minerals overall?
Well, basically, we know that the Ukraine is the producer of mass alloys, which is more going in the mass production, like steel production. We're talking about, I don't want to go too much into the specifics, but we're talking about silicon, etc., etc. However, big minerals. However, it is known that the Ukraine has a lot of strategic minerals like rare earths, which are very important to the U.S. because the main exporter of those minerals is at the moment our main producer is China. And we know the tensions between China as well as the U.S. China is using the rare earths specifically as a pressure against potential sanctions from the U.S. Yeah. So from that regards, that will be an alternative going into the Ukraine. However, how realistic is it, and what is the time frame on utilizing those minerals? You can do a deal here, but still, as said, commodities, mining, this is a dinosaur business. It takes years in order to establish from an exploitation contract or like a greenfield to a really producing project. So looking into exploiting those minerals could take years, and it's not something which could be utilized tomorrow. Yeah, that would be for something for the next term of the next president. Yeah.
All right. Now we know also that Trump is looking at Canada regarding rich minerals as well, and of course Africa is a source of supply for rich minerals, and in one area in particular, South Africa. You were there about 2 weeks ago when the South African president all of a sudden said, okay, U.S., you've done us wrong and we're cutting you off. And that all centered around the cuts of aid coming from the USAID. You were there. What was the sense that you were getting as to how effective this whole move by the South African president, how effective would that be?
Well, no one actually expected a strong response like this from South Africa. That was historical. Even the impact it could potentially have. We're talking about billions. I think we were talking about the trade deficit of $249 billion of metals, of all kinds of metals from Africa. The thing is that South Africa is the main hub of the export of all minerals. So that includes minerals from the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo, from Zambia, around in Rwanda. Most of those, next to Tanzania, are routed via South Africa. And South Africa itself is also very rich in big commodities like iron ore, chromium, which have a huge impact for the U.S. economy. So we're talking about a double, let's put it like double punishment. Not only the U.S. could route material through South Africa, but also the material which is actually sourced in South Africa would not leave the country to the U.S. we were quite happy about the response. That's probably like not happy, but quite surprised. And it was a bold move. However, how does this look in real life? Like the commodities business is a really invisible, shady business. Let's put it like this. Even US companies all of them have mostly European-based umbrella companies, where it's really hard to track if those sanctions actually could take effect. I talked to 2-3 trading houses down there in South Africa, and they already indicated that there are alternative routes in order to secure those resources. Yeah.
All right, so let's move from rich minerals over to the outcome of the German election over the weekend. Your sense, your view as to what happened in Germany?
Well, actually, what was expected? Everyone expected to have a divided country when it comes to the polls, like the outcome of the election. On the east side, we have the alternative of Germany, like the more far right, and then on the west side, middle side, up and like Germany, like the central Germany, we had like the Christian Democratic Union who took the majority of the votes. It was clearly not the victory for the alternative for Deutschland, Germany, but they doubled their votes within one term from 10% to 21, 22%. And the Christian Democratic Union were at around 28, 29%. So we got congratulations from Mr. Trump and his team. And from our side, like we saying that the USA could be happy with the outcome because Mr. Friedrich Merz, now the leader of this Christian Democratic Union, is considered as the most friendliest opponent, partner when it comes to the US. He comes from the private sector. He worked for big firms like BlackRock, for big banks as well as consultancy houses in the US, but also in Germany. So he has a little bit of an understanding on how also the US works in that perspective, yeah. So the all over sense of this, like what Friedrich Merz now is saying is Europe needs to become more independent from the US, and that was the first thing he said. He said we want to get rid of the dependence of the US, especially when it comes to defense. And the way on how Trump is now pushing to find a deal with Russia makes Europe even more worried. That's why now it's happening in this very moment. France, Britain, and Germany are sitting together to see if they could do like a nuclear deal. The three of them. The Britain is already weaponized, and we're seeing on how we could build alliances who could help us to be independent from the US.
Well, along that very line, last night in the Liberal leadership debate, one of the candidates brought that very fact up that as far as Canada is concerned, we should be turning our attention to Europe and how can we work with the Europeans as far as defense and security would be concerned. And of course, they pointed out the fact that both France and Britain have nuclear weapons. And so because we're at a point here in Canada, as you know, where we can no longer really depend or trust our closest neighbor and former ally.
Exactly. I mean, we're having the discussions here as well, and we're reaching out with a hand to Canada as well. Of course, there's a lot of dependency between Canada and the USA. You cannot just interrupt all the trade overnight. Especially, there's still the Atlantic Ocean between both of us. However, in terms of logistics, that might be not always suitable, but there's definitely a way to increase the trade volume and the partnership between Canada and the European Union. I think we in any case have a good partnership. I mean, looking between Quebec and Bavaria, we already know that there are special agreements between both in terms of economy and trade. I think we're really would look forward in order to strengthen this relationship.
All right, now I know you have to go here very shortly, but I did want to ask you about the gain that the AfD made, the far right-leaning party, which was endorsed by, of all people, the unelected U.S. President Elon Musk. If I remember correctly, it's the biggest gain that party has made post-war. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And if so, what do you think is driving that kind of attention to this party?
I mean, it was their program, which they're blaming now also the Christian Democratic Union to have copied. Basically, they were really strict on immigration policies, more strict than any other, but it's a dividing party. People are just afraid that they're too on the far right side. And given the history of Germany, we're actually super sensitive when it comes to how do you say, far right positions, and all the alarm is ringing our bells. However, it was also a vote from frustration from the German people, because the far left and the left, the green wing, they didn't do a good job, and a lot of problems arise. So that was also a protest vote in some aspect. Yeah.
All right, Christian, I know you have to run off, so thanks so much for this and giving us the background and your insight as far as rich minerals and the outcome of the German election.
Thanks for having me.